History is written by the victors. But what if the ink had dried differently in 1945? Imagine a world where the swastika flies over London, Moscow, and Washington, D.C. Today, we explore the chilling reality of Operation Cilian and Project America. To understand a Nazi victory, we must look at the hinge points of World War II. If the Luftwaffe had crippled the RAF in 1940, Britain would have fallen within weeks. Without a British unsinkable aircraft carrier, the US could never have launched D-Day. In the East, if Moscow had fallen in 1941, the Soviet resistance might have crumbled. This is the Greater Germanic Reich, a continent-spanning empire built on steel. In this alternate timeline, Berlin is no longer a city. It is Germania. Hitler's lead architect, Albert Speer, envisioned buildings so large they created their own weather. The Great Hall would have stood 300 meters tall, holding 180,000 loyal subjects. But the splendor of Germania would be built on the bones of millions. General Plan Ost. This was the Nazi blueprint for the colonization of Eastern Europe. Slavic populations would have been expelled or reduced to helot serfs for German farmers. The Holocaust would not have ended in 1945. It would have expanded globally. This was a world categorized by racial purity, where any deviation was met with death. Education would have ceased to be about logic. It would have been about indoctrination. Boys were trained for eternal war. Girls were trained for Kinderküche. Science would have been distorted. Deutsche Physik would reject any non-Aryan discovery. Cultural giants like Einstein or Freud would be erased from the history books entirely. By the 1950s, the Reich would have faced its greatest challenge, the Atlantic Ocean. Could the Nazis have invaded the United States? Historians suggest a Cold War instead. Imagine a Berlin Wall not in Germany, but dividing the American Midwest. New York and Los Angeles would become the final frontiers of a dying democratic world. The economy of a Nazi world would be inherently unstable, based on constant expansion. Without a war to fight, the Nazi machine would eventually begin to eat itself. Following Hitler's death, a massive power vacuum would likely trigger a German civil war. Technology might have advanced rapidly in rocketry, but stagnated in human rights. They might have reached the moon first, but using the labor of enslaved nations. This is the paradox. A high-tech society governed by medieval tribal hatreds. By 1950, the map of the world would look unrecognizable. The tripartite pact becomes a global partition. While Germany took the Atlantic, Imperial Japan would claim the Greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. From the ruins of India to the shores of Australia, the Pacific becomes a Japanese lake. But the alliance between Berlin and Tokyo was always one of convenience, not friendship. A fascist Cold War begins. Two empires divided by the Yenisei River in Siberia, staring each other down. Nuclear tension wouldn't be between East and West, but between the swastika and the sun. In Africa, the New Order revives the darkest days of the 19th century's scramble for colonies. Nazi planners envisioned a master continent, where African resources fueled the German war machine. Entire populations are displaced to make room for settler soldiers and experimental model cities. Meanwhile, South America becomes the Reich's backyard through economic puppet states. Argentina and Brazil are forced into the transatlantic trade bloc, serving Berlin's every whim. The United States, now an isolationist fortress America, watches helplessly from across the sea. Hemmed in by two oceans controlled by enemies, the American dream withers into a garrison state. The Statue of Liberty still stands, but her torch is dim, and her gates are locked tight. But total victory carries the seeds of total collapse. The Nazi economy was built on plunder. Without new nations to conquer, the Reich's Ponzi scheme economy begins to stagnate. Massive debt and the cost of maintaining a global occupation force drain the Reich's coffers, Resistance movements once crushed begin to flicker back to life in the shadows of the Alps and Urals. In the 1960s, the Hitler generation grows old. The fervor of the 1930s is replaced by cynicism. Youth culture, though banned, starts to seep in through illegal radio broadcasts from the free Americas. The SS and the Wehrmacht begin a shadow war for control of the post-Hitler era. This is the era of the Diadochi, the successors ready to tear the empire apart for a piece of the crown. Slave revolts in the East turn the breadbasket of Europe into a burning graveyard. The master race finds itself outnumbered by the millions it sought to subjugate. Propaganda can hide the hunger, but it cannot hide the fact that the Reich is a hollow shell. As the 1970s dawn, the 1,000-year Reich is lucky to have made it to 30. The world is a dark, silent place, waiting for a spark to ignite the inevitable explosion.